concourse is an event in the best traditions of classic motoring, MG style, and some 30 competitors
black
with
one,
a wary
black
eye
one,
on
yeah.
even the smallest crowd assembled in King Edward Park to subject their much-loved vehicles to the eagle eyes of the judges. As well as MGs, there was a non-marked club. Including MG club
I'm
members
talking about they have to drive on third and top.
Rolls-Royce.
But
Not only do the cars have to be clean, outside, inside and underneath, they have to be original. And even a set of Japanese spark plugs would lose points. Finally, the best overall MG was judged to be Mike Sparkplate's NGB Mark II, with Jeff Redmond's immaculate 1937 PA model taking up the best T-Series MG.
Following the shutting of the Newcastle City Council, the Minister for Local Government, Mr. Stewart,
These allegations led to two local government inquiries and raised concern about the administration of the Newcastle City Council.
So far, that hasn't happened, and the former Deputy Lord Mayor, Mr. John Geddes, believes the delay only substantiates his claim that the dismissal was politically motivated.
basically, having regard to the announcement made by Mr. Stewart when the council was in fact dismissed, he indicated the inspectors would be there. Now, it's nearly 2 months since that's happened. And if there's anything wrong with the way the council's being operated, you'd think they'd be in there straight away. It only goes to support the view, shared by many people in the community, that it's a political sacking.
Do
you think they'll find anything in the council as they go looking?
Look, they'll find small difficulties in relation to certain actions.
That the inspectors should have started their investigations immediately. The Minister for Local Government, Mr. Stewart, says he's giving the Administrator, Mr. Saunders, a chance to settle in before calling on the inspectors. When contacted today, he said he couldn't give a definite date for when the investigations would begin. The City Administrator, Mr. Cole Saunders, says he has settled in. He believes the delay could be due to the fact that there are only 6 inspectors in the state and that the practicalities of getting them to Newcastle may be the difficulty. Former Labor Alderman Mr. John Manning agrees.
The administrative reasons that the Department of Local Government may not have the administrative procedures the time to set those administrative procedures in train to have a proper inquiry so that it's done in a manner that will satisfy the people of Newcastle following the dismissal of the council.
Mr. Manning is confident the inspector's arrival, whenever that may be, will not further delay the election of the Newcastle City Council, which the Minister says will take place in at least another 10 months' time.
Well, to talk about
over the
what was
weekend,
happening out on the water just
tens
before.
of thousands of people who came to watch or take part in all the festivities. The highlight of the weekend was the concert of fireworks displayed Saturday night, with more than 20,000 people attending. However, throughout the weekend, the Mardi Gras was a good excuse to indulge in whatever took your fancy, from a fish throwing competition to rap dancing to gymnastics. And for the people who just wanted to sit and watch, there were plenty of displays and performances by various bands. The grand finale was the crowning of the Mardi Gras Charity Queen. And for Penny Laird,
who was sponsored by the entrance, thank you very much, Lisa. Laird, who was sponsored.
When the Mardi Gras finished late yesterday afternoon, the organisers were already hailing it as a huge success.
A tremendous success from our point of view. We felt that we really went out catering for the family person, and that's the person we have ended up catering for, so it's been really good.
It is a charity event. How much money did you raise?
Altogether we raised $22,600, which was probably the most we've raised over about the last 5 years.
While there was no counting yesterday, the figures released late on Saturday night give almost definite results for 7 of the 8 seats in the region. Of the 8, Labor appears to have retained the seats in Newcastle, Robertson and Shortland, as well as winning the 2 new seats in Bell and Carlton. The National Party held its own, becoming the seats of Lyme and Glyde. In the seat of Hunter, the vote is too close at this stage to predict the winner. sitting member Labor candidate, Mr. Torres, given, winning 26,098 votes thus far, compared to the combined Liberal National Party vote of 26,666. The outcome of that test may hang in the balance for the rest of the week, when postal and absentee votes will all be counted.
State titles in 4 classes, the International 505s, the Stars, Diamonds and the Flying 15 class, were all held on Lake Macquarie over the weekend. For the Flying 15s, the final round of the titles is being held today. However, in the other 3, the title was decided yesterday. Local boats dominated, winning all 3 state titles, and in some cases taking the top 3 placings. In the 505s, defending champion Paul Remington retained his title, from current world champion Dean Blatchford and Pacific champion Peter Hewson. All 3 are from the Royal Motor Yacht Club, Toronto. In the Star class, former Olympian Tim Owens from the Lake Macquarie Yacht Club sailed to victory in Buffa, with the Lake Macquarie boats finishing 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. In the Diamond class, the Lake Macquarie Yacht Club proved its superiority again, with Robert and Steve Liddell taking out the title in amity. Meanwhile, at Redhead Beach, they were celebrating the opening of extensions to the Surf Club. The $30,000 extensions were jointly funded by the Surf Club and the Lake Macquarie City Council. The new commercial kitchen...
I have much pleasure in officially unveiling the boat.
In our conscious society, women to the Strait is described as a good health with the perfect body. But most people don't take it this seriously or work as hard as a bodybuilder. As last night at the Newcastle Workers Club, many of the top bodybuilders from the Hunter were putting their best left forward. The bodybuilders were competing in the inaugural Torres Cup Classic, the contest between Hunter Valley muscles and bodybuilders from Canberra and Wollongong. But the highlight of the evening was the appearance of Mr. World and Mr. Universe, Jeff King. Thought they were impressive. Take a look at this. Bodybuilding certainly not just the male domain, and last night's event featured several classes of women bodybuilders. They may not be as big as the men, but they are quite intelligent. Bodybuilding for women, and their presentation is certainly a lot fancier than
When members of the AFULE met last, they voted against a union recommendation to return to work. Today, the union executive made no attempt at another such recommendation. Mr Unsworth and Mr Cox arrived in Newcastle early this morning, and instead of attending immediate talks at the Maritime Services Board with miners, went straight to the AFULE meeting. The ministers, however, met with a hostile reception on their arrival at the meeting and spoke to union executives before being allowed to address the members.
And I gave to them the necessary guarantees which would enable them to go back to their families and to give an indication that they have a job for as far ahead as any of us can see. But I must say...
The meeting went for 5 hours this morning, during which time the members voted to exclude the Gunnedah mine from the strike, allowing the 170 men there to continue working because they say of increasing financial difficulties at the mine. The AFULE will allow 6,000 tonnes of coal to be brought from Gunnedah and will also allow perishables to be freighted through.
Outside of that, they're very disenchanted with the two ministers that turned up here, because the two ministers said no to the proposal put by the AFULE to resolve the dispute. We're always worried about stand-downs, but as the meeting pointed out, the AFULE's been always stood down within hours of somebody else going on strike. It's never been the other way around.
Meanwhile, Executive Director of the New South Wales Coal Association, Dr Barry Ritchie, said the AFULE decision to stay out was a major catastrophe for the coal industry. Dr Ritchie said the decision could put an end to Australia's hopes as a coal exporter.
Well, the industry is absolutely aghast at the decision to extend the strike for another 7 days. It represents probably the biggest crisis that the industry has ever faced.
What ramifications is today's decision going to have on the coal industry?
Well, I think we can predict that it represents almost the end of any further development of the coal industry from the Hunter Valley. We already have one Korean company saying that they will be forced to change their blends to Canadian and American coals, and they will never change back once they do that.
Will the stand-downs in the rail industry flow over at all into the coal industry?
Well, the coal industry will try to avoid stand-downs as long as possible, but the loss of $5 million a day means that some companies are getting very close to the point where they can't even continue to pay wages, and that will lead inevitably to stand-downs.
There was another honour for the new Archdeacon, who was made a canon of Christchurch Cathedral. The Reverend Ernest Bailey and the Reverend Peter Ashley Brown were also made canons. For decades, the honorary post has been given to certain priests in the diocese so they can help the Dean in the management of Newcastle's famous cathedral. Finally, the Rector of Wallsend, the Reverend Robert Catt, was commissioned as canon in charge of missionary affairs, a post requiring him to work as an evangelist around the diocese. By 6 o'clock yesterday evening, there was little to suggest that King Street had been for an afternoon of bustling open-air marketplace. Only a few dismantled stores and the inevitable litter. It was the third year of the fair, organised by shoppers to attract the public to what was once a deserted and unloved commercial background in the Hunter Street. The shopping strip had been closed back between murders and disaster, and stocked with bargains to attract a fair share of Christmas trade. Many people shopping at the time were surprised to find that it is not as expensive as its reputation. As well as shopping, music played a big part in the afternoon, with the band Good Brothers entertaining those who were already down. Newcastle has a thriving theatre community, and for one night a year there is its pride on its sleeve. And so it was last night when members of the Young People's Theatre took to the stage to perform a scene from the musical Snoopy, cheered on by their fellow members in the audience. The production won a contest for its director, Wendy Lee. 13 contests were presented, and amongst the most five was the Professional Category Award for Excellence in Male Acting, and it went to Michael Robbins for his part as the obsessional Elvis fan in Are You Lonesome Tonight. In the same category, Excellence in Direction was awarded to Sydney's Ken Barker for his Newcastle University production, The Chapel Peril. The award was accepted by the drama department head Michael Lewis,
He made a return visit to the stage when the university's original musical Torres won the Best Non-Professional Production Award. The Best Non-Professional Male Actor was judged to be Alan Roberts, a four-time nominee who finally got lucky with She Stoops to Conquer. The female acting award went to Celia Ireland for the same play. Much to the delight of both Celia and her audience, she later returned to the stage to accept the Commonwealth Bank Award for the performance of the year.
It made us all appreciate the play, and we did extend.
The supply is the second of 5 catamaran ferries Carrington Slipways has been commissioned to build by the Urban Transit Authority. The ferries carry 250 people and will replace the old wooden ferries on the shorter inner harbour runs. The first ferry, the Sirius, is not in service yet, with training of crews still underway, and according to the Slipway, there have been some minor and mostly superficial improvements to the innovative design since the first. But even unconventional vessels get a traditional launching, with Mrs. Stella Hill, the wife of the Industrial Relations Minister, doing the honours. Construction of the remaining 3 ferries in the same contract is well underway, with the third, the Alexander, due to be launched early next month. The General Manager of Carrington Slipways, Mr. John Laverick, is confident the Slipways will win the tender for the additional 4 catamaran ferries.
Well, we hope we'll be successful. There's 4 more of them, but our experience on these 4 is that the price, I think, will go up somewhat on these ones, and it's open to competition from all parts of Australia.
The additional ferries will be paid for by the federal government under the Bicentennial Roads Grant for use on Sydney Harbour and up the Parramatta River. The Minister for Transport, Mr. Barry Unsworth, believes we are now seeing a renaissance age of harbour ferry transport and that Carrington Slipways will continue to play a big part in this.
We've got additional tenders out now. They'll close on the 21st of December for a further 4 of this class of catamaran ferry, and the 2 Stockton catamaran ferries, which is somewhat smaller than the one that was launched today. They'll be going to tender also, and I think Carrington Slipways have got an opportunity in that tendering process to continue to supply the Urban Transit Authority for their ferry needs.
Great, thank you.
The conference was attended by representatives from 15 councils in the area, as well as officials from the state and federal departments of employment. The conference provided an ideal forum to discuss our problems that have arisen in the CDP program over the past year and to inform the council of what they can expect in the future. As the State Director of Employment Programs, Ms Marilyn Alt explains.
We'll be reviewing the performance under the different employment programs, particularly the Community Employment Program and the Youth Employment Scheme, and looking for future directions in the Ministry of Employment in 1985.
Now, Newcastle has twice the national average of unemployed. Does the Minister have any special plans for this area?
Well, to ensure that the Hunter gets its fair share of the program funds, it will be receiving about 11.5% of monies available this year, which is about the Hunter's share of the state's unemployed. In addition, part of this today will be to see whether there are other things we should be doing apart from the programs that are currently running.
The Citizens Group has long boasted that it's a group of independents that have banded together, free-thinking and apolitical. The amendments passed last night at the Citizens Group meeting include a disciplinary clause which demands that members show cause as to why they voted against the group line. The spokesman for the group, former Deputy Lord Mayor Mr Don Geddes, says the changes are a housekeeping exercise and defends the group against accusations that it's become a political party.
A group of people that get together to discuss policy are in fact political, whether they be the citizens group or a resident action group. I don't consider what we're doing at this stage is putting it into the arena of the Labor Party or the Liberal Party or the National Party. What we're doing is saying to the members, look, we're going to work towards a goal. We expect all the members to work towards that goal. If there are differences of opinion, there is a means by which those differences of opinion either can be discussed openly in the group, or where they can't be discussed openly, we have the means of coming back to the Management Committee and the General Meeting for the purpose of trying to reconcile it. We don't want
Another former alderman, Mr John Tate, says the amendments go against everything the citizens group stands for. So he put forward a rescission motion to be dealt with at the group's next meeting.
In my view, if this is put into place, and we must realise that there is a rescission motion to be dealt with yet, if this is put into place, the citizens group will be a political party by virtue of the fact that its members, its automatic members, will be dictated to as to how they are to vote on specific issues, and that means no independence. So the only way you can describe that is a political group.
Right, that's fine. Thank you.